Today, Bungie put out a new developer insight for Destiny 2 Frontiers, which is obviously the new expansion coming out next year. And this is probably one of the ones that the majority of the community is going to see as an absolute dub. The TLDR, first off, is solo ops, are 10-minute missions that can be completed by single players or fire teams. They are low commitment options that still allow you to use challenge customizations to make progress towards better gear. They are being built for their experiences to stay fresh across repeated plays. In this developer insight, they talk about what the problem is, what the solution is, and they're trying to obviously make the single player experience more engaging, but also not having to fight with other players. And for those people that don't want to deal with matchmaking, even though matchmaking is an option for solo players, they are starting to add things into the game that are strictly for solo players, or for maybe a fire team. Maybe it's just you and a buddy who just want to go do some activities without any other like outside interference and just go and play that content and not have to stress and sweat your life away, but enjoy, the game in a slow pace, maybe a fast pace, depending on what the content is, and push yourself towards better reward and better gear. They also talk about mission variability, also being able to go to locations that are already existing in the game that we may not have had a lot of chances to go, to more than once. Maybe there was one story mission or one strike mission, or maybe even an adventure and things like that you've gone to once but not had a chance to go again. Being able to reuse those assets in those locations to bring more, of the player base into that stuff is always a really good thing. A couple of things that they mentioned at the end is, can you play them solo or can you be played as a fire team? Obviously, they straight up say you can play this solo. This is meant for solos. There's not going to be any matchmaking, but if you want to have a friend go with you, you can do that. You'll have up to 3 players. So just like a normal strike, you'll be able to do that, but it won't fill in case it's just want to be you. They don't specify whether or not they'll include champions or banes or specific modifiers at this moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the future we see some little addition added to this content. This is an absolute dub for the entire player base, especially for my solo players. I know a lot of people, especially ones in my community, we've had this discussion for years in regards to just what you do with this content and how as a single player you can get more engaged, or just maybe not engaged, but just want to play stuff in the game without having to fight with Godslayer 3.0, stealing all your kills. Obviously, this is going to take into account, probably a lot of things that they haven't discussed, but this is a long-term goal that they're working towards. And obviously a lot can change in the next 9 to 12 months, but on paper, this seems really, really good. If they can tie some really interesting things like gear, even materials. I know a lot of people talk about in-game materials, but if they can add some in-game materials to this and add some other things like, enemy variations, if they can add in some really cool reasons to go do this content, that is going to be really cool. The biggest thing I've seen people talk about, especially in my community, is in regard to comparing it to Diablo, just creating something like the Infinite Forest where a single player can go in and do a lot of challenging stuff, but kind of scaled to a single player experience and getting some rewards and just doing things that does not require you to have technically a fire team to do it. I know already we have things like dungeons and raids, but if they can somehow figure out a way to make single player dungeons and single player raids for those people who want to just play by themselves. And then remember, a lot of the gamers out there have social anxiety, and while I'm not one of them to the most part, I definitely understand that just being able to play parts of the game by himself without having outside interference is always a good thing. I preach a lot about, or I guess talk a lot about hardcore gaming and all that stuff on this channel, but I gotta give Bungie props where props is due, and I do think this is a step in the right direction for those solo players, and if that can help them get more players playing more parts of the game, then I'm always down for that. If you're one of those single players, I'm gonna leave obviously a link to the Bungie post. You can read it all for yourself. I just want to put out a quick video with a few thoughts about it. Let me know what you think as a solo player. Let me know what you think as a, more traditional fire team player as well. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.